Angel-6942 calling in. Angel-6942 calling in. Angel-6942 calling in. Angel-6942 calling in. The date in human years is Friday, the 26th of June, 2021. And both I and the human host are very, very tired. The human host had a day off today, and he went on a trip to the other side of London, near Heathrow Airport, which is where everybody flies in and brings COVID with them. Now, you see, when he was a child, the human host was sent for a few years to something called a boarding school in Henley-on-Thames. And a boarding school is like a normal school, except the children don't get to go home, they get stuck there. A bit like a prison. And it's what, a period in time, what the human host's father described as a total, utter waste of investment. Now, the human host joined this Facebook group of the old students of the school, and they all had lunch together to meet up, which is nice. Which is but tiring, because it was a long trip by bus and tube and bus and walking and bus. Now, the strange thing is that many of the students, even in the same class as the host, didn't remember him. And those that did remember him thought he was only there for like a few months rather than a few years, which was a bit hurtful and very strange as well. Anyway, this month is something called Pride Month, and it's coming to the end of Pride Month. And this is where the humans around the world celebrate the LGBTQ plus community by having loads of parades and festivals and art exhibitions and concerts and things like that, which is nice. And LGBTQ plus stands for lesbian, gay, and I found out that gay doesn't only mean very happy people, bisexual, which doesn't mean that they pay for it, transgender, LGBTQ, queer, but you shouldn't use queer at gay people because it's very insulting. But apparently when they use it, it's fine, but you know not to use it, queer, Q, and questioning, and plus, which is everything else not covered by the first bits, or anything else they hadn't thought about yet, which is very, very good idea, because otherwise it'd be a very, very long name, and then you'd have to flag, massive flag, to actually say anything. Now, every year the host volunteers at the festival, sort of like to show people around or stop people getting run over by cars and things like that. But this year, because of the COVID, it's been postponed to September. And last year it was cancelled totally. But this year, the Pride Parade in London isn't happening. So it's very odd to see sort of these adverts and posters for Pride Month when there's nothing happening really. But luckily, all those big companies and businesses are still celebrating it. And it's wonderful to see that these big multinational corporations are supporting the LGBTQ plus community by showing they support them and how wonderful they are while selling things for a month, so they don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year. It's nice, isn't it? Now, ideally on Earth, every human should be treated equally, the LGBT class, or the people of different races. They should all be treated equally, but apparently it's not as easy as it seems. For example, this week, a lady called Laurel was accepted to compete in the Olympics for New Zealand, which is wonderful. And New Zealand is like a country like Australia, except it's smaller. Now, The problem is that Laurel had previously competed as a man, and she had transitioned now into a woman. So she is the first transsexual to ever compete in the Olympics, which is really, really good news. But unfortunately, a lot of women that were born into the same sex as their gender, because gender and sex are two separate things, aren't very happy. Because they say that even though Laurel had taken a lot of treatment so that she is now a woman, because she was previously a man, all her muscles and her bone structure remain, so therefore it's not fair. But on Laurel's side, they say that because she has had a lot of treatment, different treatments, all the hormones she had have been eradicated. And in fact, a lot of women that are born women, they're called cis women, CIS women, so women that are born at the same sex as their gender. And cis, well, I don't know what CIS stands for. The human host looked it up and all he could find was construction industry scheme. And I don't think it can be that. But anyway, they say that cis women have an amount of male hormones in them. And because Laurel had taken the treatment from taking her from a man in terms of her sex to a woman in terms of her sex, because she was gendered as a woman in the first place, she doesn't have these hormones at all. And that, in fact, she has a disadvantage because you need these hormones for strength and things like that. So she says it's a disadvantage, so therefore it is fair. And it just goes to show that it's complicated. And then when you sort of give the rights to one side, you sort of affect the rights of another side. And humanity is very, very complicated, very complicated. But I do wonder if an easy solution is to change the Olympics so they no longer have all these big sports and have things like tiddlywinks and Scrabble or video games, and then everybody compete with everybody else. And then you don't have to worry about sex or gender or disability or race or height. And the human host could probably be an Olympian because it's very good at Scrabble. Now, this month, or this week, is not only Pride Month, but it was also the Summer Solstice. And the Summer Solstice is what humans call the longest day of the year. And they like it so much that they try to extend it by showing lots and lots of sports on TV, like football, constantly on every single channel, which makes the day very, very long indeed. Very, 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 very long. Very long. Now, during this summer solstice, a lot of humans that followed the Druid religion, which is they look after nature, but don't mention that to JC. But anyway, they all descend on Stonehenge, which we won't mention because it's a bit embarrassing after what I think we did. Anyway, they all descend on Stonehenge to celebrate the sunrise on the longest day. But because of COVID restrictions, they aren't allowed to do it this year, which is strange because they allow people to watch and gather in big crowds to watch football. It's very odd. Anyway, so a company or an organisation called the National Trust that looks after Stonehenge said that they would live stream the sunrise, which is like watching television, but on your computer and telephone thing, so that nobody should come down, and they can buy tickets for £20 each to watch the live stream. But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't listen, and they climbed the fences, and they all gathered at Stonehenge to celebrate the sunrise. And for some reason, the National Trust decided that because all the people out there, they aren't going to live stream it. They're not going to show anybody in Stonehenge because they don't want to see the people, possibly because they're all ugly or something like that. And instead, they showed a sunrise of a previous summer solstice, like a repeat, so it is like television. So they showed a fake sunrise to people that paid £20. So you can't really trust the National Trust. But they did apologise. Now, I know we mentioned the Euro 2020. Well, yeah. So in the Euro 2020, the organisers of the Euro 2020 had a meeting with Bojo, to, and they had this meeting and they wanted to discuss the arrangements for all the very important people from the Euro 2020 organisation. And they agreed that they can come into the country without any of the lockdown restrictions like isolation or needing to wear a mask or show social restrictions, and they can do whatever they want because they're very important people and the virus knows that and decides not to affect them. And the organisation is called UEFA, and that is spelt MAFIA. Now, a lot of people claim that Bojo was not on the ball and was not doing his job, but I do not blame him because Bojo has had a lot on his mind. I mean, today and yesterday it was revealed that his friend, one of his bestest friends, Matt, do you remember Matt from last time? Well, Matt had an affair with somebody that he wasn't married to, which is a bit naughty. He was caught on camera and it's all been everywhere. He's had an affair. And he broke COVID lockdown restrictions, even worse, because everybody aren't allowed to meet up, and he was seen kissing his girlfriend, which wasn't his wife. But the good thing is he has apologised to Bojo, and Bojo has forgiven him. He said, "I forgive you." Unfortunately, Matt's wife hasn't forgiven him, and was pictured sort of driving away in a car from his house. Though I think she should have made him leave. And also, another of Bojo's friend called John, who was the Speaker of the House. And I think the Speaker of the House is where they connect him to an audio device and then they listen to the radio or music out of him. Maybe he opens his mouth or something. I don't know where they stick the lead though. No. Anyway, he was the Speaker of the House. And when he stopped being the Speaker of the House, he expected to become a Lord, which is a very important people, like an MP, but nobody voted for them. But a lot of the people in his own party, which is Bojo's party, didn't like John at all. They hated him. Maybe they didn't like the music he played, or maybe because all they heard from John was order, order, order in the house, order in the house, which isn't really a very good song or interesting. So anyway, they didn't want him to be a Lord, and they blocked him. And he's the only ex-Speaker of the House that isn't a Lord. So I don't think he's very happy. But anyway, this week, John has decided to quit Bojo's party and join Keir's party. So he's crossed the house. I don't know if there's a peloton crossing. So he's crossed the house and joined the other side. But he says that it's not because he wants to be a Lord. Though he was last seen shopping for a red cloak with a fur collar. Anyway, I will speak to you next week. Order, order, order in the house. Order, order, order in the house. Order, order in the house. Order, order in the house. Order, order, order in the house. Order, order in the house. Order, order in the house.